Welcome to Ageless by Rescu. This podcast is devoted to exploring the science of rejuvenation, uncovering the most trusted experts, the must-have products, innovations, and technology in the field of vitality, aesthetics, new beauty, and cosmetic enhancement. I am so delighted to welcome Lisa Curry to Ageless by Rescu podcast. This was a little bit in the making, but when I was first planning the show a year and a bit ago, I remember going through a list of ageless muses, and I wanted to have a local and international voice. And when I was looking at iconic women that we want to hear from on this subject, Lisa, you are definitely up there. Such an honor and a pleasure to host you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't feel iconic. It's funny when people use that word because there are so many people who have done so many more amazing things than me. But, I have been around a long time. I've been in the public eye for, 40 years now. And, I'm still busy. So it's kind of...
You're busy and you're beloved. And I think one of the things that makes you iconic in my respect, and certainly the people I've spoken to, and the millions of magazine covers that obviously sell when they have images of you on the front cover, a testimony to that as well, is that you have always shared your journey very authentically, very openly. And that has given a lot of us permission to have conversations that perhaps we wouldn't have had. Would you agree that that's kind of been your superpower?
When you say it like that, I didn't set out to do that. If someone asks me a question, I'm quite open about it because the answer is the answer. It's honest. There's no point trying to make it, impressive or skirt around the point. I'm just me. Like, I'm pretty open and honest with everything that I talk about. So I guess over the years I have been fairly open, and most of the time it's been pretty good, but sometimes it gets me into trouble because some people don't like the fact that you're so open. But, I've been through a lot of different things, and sometimes it takes someone in the public eye to talk about things that are quite personal in the public eye, because other people then realize that they're not alone, that they're thinking the same thing, they're feeling the same way. And quite often ladies will say, I feel like you're talking to me personally. So, yeah, I guess I never set out to do that, but it's just the way I am.
One of the things that I really wanted to unpack with you today is, you wrote a book when you turned 60. And as you said, you've been in the public eye for 40 years. So we met you as an Olympian, as, a national treasure, part of an iconic couple. We've seen you raise your family ahead of us. But now, I guess the stories come full circle, and it's time for you, for Lisa Curry. And I think that realization that you touch on is a really important one. And whether you arrive at that space when you're 60, or some people arrive at that space when they're 30, there are definitely pivotal points in your lifetime. And I'm interested as to why it took you until you were 60 where you went, hang on a second, my turn.
Well, things have happened along the way. As far as the book was concerned, I wanted to write a book for my 50th because I'm thinking like half a century, yay, let's write a book. And then I started on manuscript, and then the lady that was writing it with me, she got breast cancer and couldn't continue anymore. So I put it on the shelf and continued my life and never got back to it. So it was sitting there for a very long time. But then I guess, you kind of write a book at a milestone. So I wasn't going to write my book on my 57th birthday, It didn't sort of have any bells that rang with it. So I thought 60 is a good time. And then we had our awful tragedy in the family, and I just couldn't even bring myself to think about that. So, things have happened along the way. And I think sometimes, it's just, if something doesn't happen for a reason, then it's not meant to be. And so lots of doors have opened in my life, but if you can't open the door, it's not your door, so you move on. And I think in my life, I've followed a passion, I've followed a path that I've really enjoyed, And then that opens itself up to other doors as well. So I haven't ever, I don't feel like I've ever gone up. I seem to go out on these tangents, and then it's like my life is kind of being in and out and up and down, and finally I find myself at 60, which is interesting because 60 is it's a big number, especially my kids think I'm old, my grandson thinks I'm old, um,
Do you
but
feel old?
some days I do when I wake up and my joints are aching, and you see the wrinkles starting to get a little deeper, and you just think, oh no, here we go. I'm going through menopause at the same time, and it's I guess you would know yourself that the quality of your life, how you grow up, starts to accumulate to
Absolutely.
where you are now.
Absolutely.
So if
Everything
I had
counts. I
neglected,
always say that. Everything
yeah,
counts.
I know, and now everything is counting. It's taken 40 years for my body to um, manifest where it is at the moment. So you know, I actually haven't told anyone this, but I've been in hospital twice with AF, atrial fibrillation. So the doctor told me last week that it's because of all my training, like 40, 50 years almost of training, where your heart is pumping so hard that it gets much bigger, and then it starts to stretch and it scars. So the scar tissue creates an electrical problem. So he said that's the consequence of having a lifetime of, elite
Overtraining?
training and competition.
Yeah.
And I said to him, well, you know, if I had known back then that this would happen to me now, would I have done the same thing? And my answer was yes. I still would have done it. But see, we know that now. Okay, so I had to talk to my son about it as well, and he just said, I mean, you can't tell an athlete to slow down. They love doing what they do, but not only did I compete at 3 Olympic Games, but when I finished my swimming career, I competed in another sport at a very high level and won 4 World Championships in the sport of outrigger canoeing for 20 years.
You
Like, I'm
sure
not talking like,
did.
5 years, it was
Sure
20
did.
years.
Wow.
And I loved every moment of it. So the consequences of, the hard training, my heart issues, and I've kept myself in pretty good nick. I eat well most of the time. I drink some alcohol. I don't smoke, and I try to have a really good balance. So, here we are at the age of 60.
It's interesting because I've interviewed a lot of athletes and or people from a sporting background before on the show. And the thing that's really unique about you is that you've learned to understand your body almost
Mhm.
as a machine, as a tool in getting you to where you need to go. So, as you said, from a young age, you were in elite competitive sport. Like there is nothing more elite than being an Olympian. And
Mm.
I'm sure that, at the time you had trainers, you had physicians, you had scientists, you had nutritionists making a lot of
Not
decisions.
really. But not really. That all happened after my career.
Right.
We didn't really have nutritionists. We had a couple of scientists, at the Institute of Sport, but that all sort of happened, as I was retiring. So different ball game.
But would you agree that you were someone who understood your body almost like an instrument, that you would know that if you got your 8 hours sleep, it would perform differently to
Yeah.
7 hours sleep. If you ate certain things, you would be able to fuel your body to go faster, harder, longer. And the reason I bring this up is that often for mere mortals and not Olympians,
Mhm.
this information doesn't get taught to us. This information isn't even intuitively understood by us until we
Mm.
reach a health crisis. And I think that's what's interesting is that you understand that most women don't start paying attention to the signs until there is a health crisis. And you've been able to, I guess, put all of that experience of knowing your own body and understanding physiology and working with people who understand um, the way the body works to then amalgamate this information in the Happy Healthy You platform that you've created. And
Mm.
I'm curious about, one of the stats that I read is that you interact with almost 40,000 people a week, a day. I can't remember what it was, but so you've got a really great read on what
Mm.
women are experiencing and what they want and what they don't know.
That's right. You spot on. And you know, well, a couple of things there. We started the business back in. Well, I've known Jeff for 26 years.
And Jeff is the
Um,
consulting naturopath who's the co-founder with you. Is that correct?
yeah, that's right. Yes, and we have a team of naturopaths and nutritionists that work with us. So we're all about prevention. We're all about nutrition and movement and meditation and natural supplements and looking after yourself and trying to teach ladies how to work out for themselves what is going on with their body. Um, Two of our naturopaths and nutritionists are young girls. They're in their early 20s, or they're 25 now, but they can talk to the younger audience, and some of our older naturopaths can talk to the perimenopause and the menopausal audience. So we've got a really good range of people. But pretty much everything that can go wrong has, gone wrong in my life. And, you just tend to understand it more if you understand it. So that sounds silly, but if everyone did one semester at university on human biology or physiology, they would sit there in class like I did, and the penny drops, and you go, oh, right, that's why that happens. And that's how it affects my body, because it's not about eating the cake and the fries, it's about what it does to your body on a cellular level
Oh, you're
every
speaking
single
my language. Absolutely.
every every single meal, and we think we can get away with it, and we do for a long time. And I did for a long time because I was burning off all the energy with 6 hours of training every day. I could eat whatever I liked. So my diet has been pretty ordinary probably until the last 10 years or so, when I started to realize that actually everything that you put in your mouth does make a difference. Now, when we stand there and say it doesn't matter, one more drink, one more drink, one more hot fries, one more Coke, one more donut, it just piles on top of you until 20 or 30 years later, you've got heart disease. Where did that come from? And you think back about, what you used to eat all those years ago, even at high school, you know, what have I done to my body where I'm here now? So I always say the first 20 years of your life sets you up for your next 20 years. And what you do between 20 and 40 sets you up for the next 60 to 80-year age bracket, whereas you're supposed to be in the prime of your life. That's if you haven't died from a heart attack or a stroke, or you've lost your mobility, or you have cancer or something. 60 to 80, you're supposed to be going off on holidays, retired, having a great time. But
And
if
that
you've
is
neglected your
actually the
body,
natural path. Like all the research on longevity and lifespan and health span suggests that, really 60 is the new 40. And that if you have taken care of your body, and even if you haven't, there are many, many things you can do to reset. And that's the good news. And that's why I'm really passionate about the
mm,
topic on Ageless, is that it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, what you did in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s sets you up for part two, but at any time you can do better than you are now. And I think you were one of the first people, and I really mean this truly. So I'm 48, but I actually remember being in my 30s, and I think the first time I heard about the concept of hormones and mood health and all of those subjects was through you. You were very, very
mm,
vocal, and you were the first celebrity that, was talking in that language. And at the time,
mm,
I didn't really understand how it applied to me.
mm,
Exactly, because you said we don't get that education. You haven't sat in, you don't know what you're doing to your body. You're just kind of haphazardly going through life with the vigor of youth. But I do remember that the first inklings of hormonal support, uh, taking care of your energy, being careful around what, your moods are, was through things that you were talking about and brands that you were advocating for. Am I right?
yeah. Well, yes, that was probably started off probably in the mid 90s. But it was hard because I had to bare my soul. I had to be honest. I mean, I didn't punch a hole in the wall. I put a hole in the wall from slamming the door so hard that the doorknob went through the wall. I remember sitting on the floor just crying and screaming for no reason. I was just a mess. And, my poor husband at the time, Grant, had to put up with this every single month. And every single month we could have got divorced, but we somehow got through it enough. But we didn't know what it was then. It's just these moods, this uncontrollable, moody and irritable and teariness and crying for no reason. And it was just, but now we know what it is, right? Our hormones are imbalanced. We know what causes it. We know what it feels like. We know how to fix it. So, I mean, the happy hormones was an absolute game changer for us. For Jeff and I, we sat down and we thought, what do women need? And I said, we need something to stop these horrible moods, or we just could kill our husbands every single day. And
Absolutely.
as we've progressed as a company, we've, you know, I even said to him not too long ago, probably a couple of years ago, can we do some skincare? Because I feel like what I'm using is not working on my skin. So now we have skincare. So we've got a whole range of things, but it's what women need to help prevent symptoms or issues in the future. So it's all natural. All our information is prevention. And, we have beautiful eating plans that go with everything. So we've really thought about women and what they need. But the problem is once they get to, 50 or 60, they feel like they need everything because
I think
they
you're
don't, not
right.
quite
I
sure.
think there's a lot of
Yeah.
overwhelm, and sorting through what you need is the
Mm.
challenge. And there's such a lot of information out there. And I always think when we're producing content, and I'm sure you do too, and I've seen the site, it's beautifully curated, very thoughtful, very easy to understand too. And I know how hard that is to do. So I just want to say congratulations, because I know it's actually to choose what to put up and what not to publish is a challenge in
Mm.
itself. But I think that, I've said this before, and I don't mean any disrespect to the medical system, but it is broken. And it's very, very difficult to find integrative doctors who can help you look at your health in a holistic, preventative way. And in my own kind of gesture towards, helping our readers and followers, I launched a virtual clinic this month where we have a suite of functional tests that you can take. I partner with a pathology company because, exactly like you said before, you need to know what you need to know. And that means having a health dashboard. We edited through, curation of supplements with a naturopath. I'm not a naturopath. I'm not an expert. I work with a naturopath on that. And skincare products, again, we work through with an expert. I am an expert in that area. So everything that we suggested is tried and tested. And I think that what you're doing with Happy Healthy You is so unique, because you're also allowing people to partner with health practitioners, right? You've got a telehealth component.
Yes, yes. The other good thing about all of our Facebook pages and our community that we talk to every single day is that firstly that it's safe and it's supportive and it's encouraging, it's inspiring for them, but also they know that they're not alone. And a lot of ladies, when they have some issues, they don't talk about it. But if they come into the group and they might start talking about it or venting about something, they've got hundreds, sometimes thousands of other ladies that come and they go, oh my God, that's me too. You're not alone. And you feel better because you're not the only one
Validated.
going through it. So
Mm.
it's a real feeling of belonging for a lot of ladies. And it's funny when I go out shopping, doesn't matter where I am or sitting on a plane or whatever, someone will come and say, oh, I'm one of your happy hormones ladies. And my husband, he loves it. And the husband comes and goes, yeah, great. Thanks for that, Lisa. It's amazing. And, it's nice when people just come up and say, hey, it works for me. But it's nice to be able to help people. And
Lisa,
I
what
feel like
changed
I've
your
been.
life? What was the one thing that you think really impacted your wellness and your ability to handle the enormous amount on your plate, and also life's hardest, worst moments?
Yeah, I think it was in 2007, and I didn't feel well. I was doing a race in Hawaii. Doctor told me not to race, but I did anyway. um, and 5 months later, I found myself in hospital, and I always knew I had an irregular heartbeat because I could hear it when I was sleeping. So, as an
Wow.
athlete, you're very, very in tune with your body and what's going to feel everything. And I knew something wasn't right. And my best friend is actually a paramedic, and she got me out to hospital. But long story short, I have a pacemaker and a defibrillator. And that did change my life because I couldn't do what I used to do. I used to go out on my canoe and paddle for 4 hours in the middle of the day while the kids were at school. Because my races in Hawaii were, 5, 6 hour races. And I couldn't do that anymore. And it was like cutting off a hand of a pianist. Like, now what? And it changed the whole direction of my life. And I had to find something that I could do on land where I could be around people, because if I was out paddling, I had to take a phone, I had to have an EPIRB, I had to have a buddy with me, I had to let people know when I was starting, when I was finishing. It's like, it just takes all the fun out of it. So my life changed then. I did a
How old were you when
course,
that happened?
training. I was
So
46.
yeah.
Did a personal training course, went to uni for a couple of semesters because I always wanted to be a teacher, and I guess I have been. But I started running boot camps and retreats, and my whole life changed. And at first it was hard, but it was so enjoyable, and that's one of those doors that opened up to the side, not necessarily up, right? So it's just this
That's right.
meandering life that you do, and yeah, and it was, I couldn't think of a better life. It's been amazing. But now that I'm 60, now that I've had, terrible sadness in my life, I think it's time. I think it's time for Lisa. I feel like I've been helping people my whole life.
And what does time for Lisa look like to you? We always talk about planning, blue skying, vision boarding. I'm really curious to see how Lisa Curry,
Mhm.
envisions, the next 20, 40,
Yeah,
60 years.
yeah. Well, I've got three little grandsons now, and I like to spend time with them. Um, but if you follow me on Instagram, you'll you'll see what we're up to. I cleaned out our bus yesterday. We've got a Toyota Coaster bus, and I want to go on the road. And I've done it once before. I travelled around Australia for 2 years, but I worked in 100 towns. Like, that was my goal. This time, I want to go on the bus. I don't want to work in 100 towns. I just want to go to a town and sit in a cafe and talk to the people at the next table, not have a function put on that I have to go to.
I
So I
love
can just
that.
have fun, just sleep in if I want to, and go for a walk if I want to, and not have the responsibility of being somewhere, you know, on a trip around Australia. This country is absolutely beautiful, and there's so much to see, and we just want to pack up and take the dog and go.
Lisa, one of the things that you have as part of Happy Healthy You is this self diagnosis. I would love for you to share what that is, because I think it's part of the wisdom of, I guess, experience in life. And you touched on it before. As an athlete, you're so self-aware and you know how to scan your body. But this particular 5-minute self-assessment that you talk about is so good, and it can be used by anyone. And to me, its simplicity is what makes it really, really good. And I'd love for you to share what that is.
Well, it's simple because I used to teach it to grade one kids and preppy kids.
Do it.
So
Just teach
I
it to
used
us.
yeah, but it makes sense. So when you say I need to look after myself, or you need to look after yourself, self. So I used to say to the kids, so how do we spell the word self? And they'd all put their hand up when their little, teeth or fallen out teeth. They go SELF. And I said, okay, S stands for something that we need to do every single day. What do you think S stands for? And they'd say sausages, or they'd say, any word starting with S. But we'd finally get around to it, and it's sleep. So if you think about the four things, I could tell you the kids version, but it's much longer. So S is for sleep, E is for exercise, L is for love, and F is for food. So if we ask ourselves a question, am I getting enough sleep? Am I sleeping soundly? Am I waking up refreshed? E for exercise. Am I exercising every day? Am I doing something? Dance, surf, walk, jog, swim, whatever it might be. Makes you feel good. L is for love. Am I getting love in the day somehow? Am I getting love? Am I feeling loved? Am I giving love? Am I doing something that I love? F is for food. Am I putting in the right food, the correct nutritional food into my mouth every single day? And if you can ask yourself those four questions, then you can start, and if you're honest, you can start to think about, well, maybe I'm lacking in this area. And if you start to work on your food and your exercise and loving what you do, your sleep's probably going to be better anyway. So it's all interconnected. Everything affects everything else, as we know. So you get one part of the body that's not working properly, and all of a sudden it starts to affect everything else. So we have to look at the body as a whole and not just, it's like when you train in the gym, you can't squat reduce. You can't just do sit-ups for a great stomach. It's the whole body. The same thing, we ask ourselves the questions, eat the right food. Am I drinking 2 liters of water a day? I mean, I find drinking 2 liters
I
of water
am
a day
not.
really hard. No.
I am not. What about libido? It's such an important part of aging well, of feeling youthful, energized. And I think, we have a lot of spokespeople in their 20s and 30s and 40s even. But as a woman in your 60s, as someone who advocates, happy, healthy you, surely a happy, healthy libido is part of that conversation.
Yeah, and I think it's part of feeling good about yourself as well. We had a live with one of our naturopaths last week about libido, and there were some funny comments in there as well. But sometimes an understanding husband is the best foreplay you can have. When they understand what you're going through and understanding and gentle with you as you go through menopause, where you might have put on weight, and like I have, and I feel, my clothes don't fit me, and I just don't feel like the same Lisa in my body, and so you tend to, you kind of put towel around you, where before you didn't, but you know what? I said to the ladies, when you are naked in the bedroom with your husband, you're the only naked woman in the room, and as far as he's concerned, that's all he wants. He wants a naked woman in the room. But libido is something that affects different people. In our group, we always have it always makes good conversation. Some people are really funny. They're just like, oh, couldn't be bothered, couldn't care less if I ever had it again. And other people are like, oh yeah, I have it 3 times a day. And it's like, what? Really? So all the ladies are sort of interacting with the libido. But I know my friend takes happy hormones, and she said it really affects her. It really affects her libido. Like it's good for her. So there are things that work, for people in different ways. It's an interesting topic, though. It's not, a one size fits all.
So you created happy hormones, but I'm really curious, if you were to make the next magical supplement, what would it be for?
Ooh, I would make one for men. I would make a happy hormones for men. Happy man moan. Happy hormone.
I like that.
I think they have their moments as well.
They do. It's real. The male menopause is real. Absolutely.
Yeah. But we've got a few new ones coming along at the moment. We just released our collagen and Happy Defense, which is great for your immunity. I'd love to do one, or we are doing one for teenagers
Yes.
and reproductive.
Sign me up for that one.
Years. But they can already take happy hormones, but we're changing the formula so it's more specific for them and the reproductive years. So probably, between 13 and 30. So yeah, there's still a lot of products that we can do, but the best thing about it all is they're all natural. And we have a team of staff that are there 7 days a week answering every question that you put into the forum. So it's amazing to have that ability to be able to do that.
Lisa, do you have any goals for yourself? I mean, obviously the book was a lovely milestone, um, and you've got the travel planned. I'd love to know, what are some bucket list items that remain for you or that you're working on now?
Um, I would like to. I'd actually like to write another book, N- not like the one I just did, but more about the adventures that we're going to have in the future. Um, we're going husky dog sledding in January, so I'm very excited about that. We were supposed to do that 2 years ago, but COVID put an end to that. And I don't know, it's just travel, getting settled. Um, I mean, the background here is the nice part of my office. If you saw that part of it, they're like just getting settled. I've got so many projects going on at once that it's I need to declutter my life. That's a big goal for me, because I think when you declutter your life, you feel, I don't know, you just feel more relaxed. But
Do you
I think for
work
me,
with
the biggest
anyone?
goal for
Do you
me
have a
is,
life coach? Do you have a business coach? Obviously you've always trained and you've been a trainer, but I'm curious, do you have someone that helps you with that aspect of your life?
I have a couple of people that I turn to, yes, when I need some advice. One is my personal trainer that I've had for 12 years. She's great. My masseur is great. My ex strength training coach, he's great. And sometimes the best counseling you can ever have is a $5 coffee with your girlfriends.
Yes,
So,
I
yeah, and my
concur.
husband's, yeah, my husband's really understanding as well, and we can talk about anything at all. We just sit down, go through things, and there's always a way to do something. Um, and we know that in the end everything will be okay. But I'll tell you what, if you don't have your health, it's really hard to do the things that you want to do. So at the moment for me, I feel like I'm back at square one. I've had 2 years of absolute, you know, horrendous sadness. And I feel like I've got to start back again. And I feel like I'm at square one. So I've just got to make my checklist every day. I've got to make sure that I can be accountable to it, and, slowly take just one step at a time.
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of the nation when I say we love you so much, and it was just such an absolute honor to have you on the show. Um,
So,
it's really nice to see you well and thriving, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I think that the conversations you've been having for a long time are so important, and yeah, we've seen you live a lot of life, and we're excited to see what you do next.
yeah, thank you so much. I think just one thing I didn't mention, that if people are not sure where to start with their health and their wellness, we have a really good online assessment. And when you print it out, it actually stages it in all the different questions that you are asked. So it gives you suggestions of how you can change your life and your health and your wellness. Um, and what I tell people is just pick one that's easy, and do that for a couple of weeks, and then pick something else, and then just start adding that in. So, like for example, believe this, I have to cut out coffee. So I'm cutting down. I've got like decaf coffee, but today I had a green juice instead. So it's just little changes that you have to make to your life each day.
I think it is about the incremental changes. And I think you're right that you don't need to overwhelm yourself with wanting to do this whole life makeover. I wrote a book a
Mhm.
few years ago, and at the beginning, it was a life makeover book. And it was like, pick the things you want to polish. Everyone is okay where they are, but everyone wants to polish one or two areas of your life. And I think
Yeah,
you're quite right. Just choose one little healthy ritual to enhance or take away something that's not so healthy.
yeah,
Slowly, slowly catch the tiger.
just baby steps.
Baby steps. Lisa, thank
Yeah.
you so much for being on the show. I will
Uh,
have links to Happy Healthy You at the end of this episode as well. And I just want to thank you again for being on Ageless by Rescue podcast.
Thank you so much. It was lovely being with you this afternoon.